Good evening, everyone. My name is Elizabeth, the Education Coordinator for Marlene's Market and Deli. Tonight's special guest that we have with us, and it's always an honor to work with and learn from, we have Dr. Jennea Wood, naturopathic doctor, and Heidi Ochsner, registered dietitian of Tummy Temple. We are very grateful to have them come and speak tonight virtually with us on the topic of what to do when you can't go number two. Thank you so much, ladies.
Our pleasure to be here and share some knowledge. I'm Dr. Jennea Wood. I'm a naturopathic physician practicing with Tummy Temple. And one of my main areas of specialty is digestive health, constipation being one of the very most common things that I see and help people with. And Heidi, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Heidi Ochsner. I'm a registered dietitian at Tummy Temple in the Seattle location. Dr. Wood's in the Olympia location, but we both work virtually as well. And I've been with Tummy Temple for 19 years. I'm also the product director there, and I also practice colon hydrotherapy there, which is often very helpful for constipation. And yeah, we're excited to be here. Thank you, Elizabeth and Marlene's Market, for giving us this opportunity.
Yes, thank you so much. We love the outreach that you do. So I will start us off. I just want to say that our intention with these classes is just to offer something generous from our hearts to help people tackle this sometimes challenging issue, and to offer the basics, offer some really usable information that you can just take and implement yourself, and then also offer ourselves as a resource if you happen to have a more complex situation going on and need some additional support. So with that said, I also want to name this is a bit of a taboo topic in our culture, and Heidi and I are very comfortable talking about all about poop, but most people aren't. And so this is, kind of an opportunity to shed some light, hopefully, on a topic that doesn't get discussed a lot and is very hush-hush, and therefore it's sometimes kind of hard to get help with it. So as Elizabeth said, please do submit your questions as we go. You can unmute yourself and just ask, or you can post it in the chat, and we will be keeping an eye on that and answering questions as we go.
Great, thanks. Let's see. So we're going to just dive right in. Are you constipated? How do we define constipation? Basically, if you're having less than one very large or two large, complete and easy bowel movements a day, then it's possible that you are experiencing some constipation. Everyone isn't the same, but what we do want to say is that in general, natural medicine doesn't really follow the idea that anywhere from 3 bowel movements a week to 2 a day is all in the range of normal. It would definitely, if you're having 3 bowel movements a week, we would definitely say that you were having some issues with constipation. And you also have to think of quality versus quantity. It's not just the number of bowel movements a day that you're having. If you're having little incomplete, hard rabbit pellet bowel movements 3 times a day, I don't think that's amazing. I think, that we need to work on that. So if you feel like there is more that needs to eliminate or that isn't moving, then the quality of the bowel movements could also be indicating that you might be having some constipation issues. If things are hard, dry, dense, that could be an indication. If you find yourself having to strain or push, things aren't coming out easily, that can also be an indication that you could be experiencing constipation. And acute and persistent hemorrhoids can also be giving you the hint that there are some issues there.
So I'm going to touch a little bit on the anatomy that's going on in this part of the body. So the colon is the last section of the digestive tract. It's about 5 feet long in most people. And it has a number of roles. One of them is to act as a storage and fermentation chamber for our trillions of gut bacteria. And those bacteria ferment the leftover fiber that's in our food that we can't digest and absorb further up in the digestive system. So they ferment it, and as a byproduct of that, produce a number of things, which can include lactic acid, acetic acid, aka vinegar, hormones, vitamins, energy, and actually up to about 10% of the energy used to power our bodies is provided for us by this bacterial fermentation. And then depending on the type of bacteria present, hydrogen or methane gas can be produced in varying amounts. So if we have too many of the type of bacteria that produce gas rather than acetic or lactic acid, then we'll have a lot of bloating or gas. And then the other role of the colon is as a dehydration chamber. So one of the colon's jobs is to take liquid digested food coming in from the small intestine and pull the water out of it and back into the bloodstream so that we're not constantly being dehydrated going to the bathroom. And that leaves behind solid stool. However, the longer the stool sits around, the colon just keeps working on it. So it keeps pulling water out more and more and more, and the stool just keeps getting harder and drier, which can then worsen constipation.
And
so, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some common reasons why you might be more chronically constipated and how to deal with those. But wanted to note that very often there are multiple and interrelated reasons why someone has chronic constipation. And so while we're going to give some great suggestions, we always recommend that you see one of our docs or myself or the registered dietitian for a specific plan if you have a more complicated presentation. Everyone wants it to just be one thing, and then they figure that one thing out, and then it's all good. And sometimes that's the case, but very often it's multiple inputs, especially if someone has a chronic situation.
Absolutely. And I want to note that if you've been told you have IBS, which stands for irritable bowel syndrome, this is a catch-all term that can encompass a lot of these causes that we're going to talk about. So many of the things that we'll be covering today can play a role in IBS, and there can be some other factors as well that we won't get to today.
So the basics, which probably you've heard of, but they have to be talked about. The first one would be dehydration, or staying hydrated to help you go to the bathroom. So people talk about how much water to drink. There's all these different ideas. Basically, half your body weight in ounces is a good way to think of it. So if you weigh 120 pounds, then around 60 ounces of water. But there is a limit to this. You don't want to be drinking gallons and gallons of water. At some point, that can disturb your electrolyte balance. So no more than a gallon of water a day would be the caveat around that. And then you can think about also that you want the water you drink to actually go where it's supposed to go and do what it's supposed to do, instead of feeling like I'm drinking all this water and then I'm just urinating and peeing it all away. So adding electrolytes to your water can be really helpful way to do that. We use a liquid electrolyte concentrate that you just put a little capful in your water because it doesn't have any sugar. It doesn't have any food coloring. It's called Elite, and I love adding that with a little lemon juice or lime juice to my water. And then I can really tell the difference that the water is staying with me and hydrating me. Dr. Wood just put a link in the chat to a collection of items that we might be talking about throughout this talk. And I think that the Elite electrolyte is in there. As well, for dehydration, thinking about alcohol and caffeine and how it can be dehydrating. So if you're drinking an alcoholic drink, you're going to need to compensate by drinking more water on top of that, because alcohol is a diuretic and it's going to pull water out of your system. So when you think about that, half your body weight in ounces, if you're also having dehydrating drinks, you might need to add to that. So that's first basic, hydration. Second would be reason for chronic constipation could be a lack of fiber in the diet or a poor diet.
And
Oh yeah.
And a very important point here is the FDA says that we need about 25 grams of fiber per day. And we at Tummy Temple generally feel that that is not enough. So we generally advocate for people getting 30 grams, but even more than that would be good, maybe 30 to 50 grams. Our ancestors who were living a true hunter-gatherer lifestyle got probably up to 100 grams of fiber per day. And that would be hard to pull off these days because we've actually, through agriculture, bred our fruits and vegetables to have less fiber in them so that they're easier to chew. Because, our hunter-gatherer ancestors also had these very strong jaws and we're very used to chewing 100 grams of fiber per day, and we are out of practice. So, you can have really good bowel function without getting quite to that limit, but most people, this is probably one of the topics I cover most often with people with constipation, is how do we get that up to at least 30 grams a day?
And you want to work up slowly.
Yes.
Definitely, if you're going from not eating much fiber, standard American diet, you work up slowly. Don't change from one all the way up to the other in a weekend. Increasing whole grains, increasing legumes, beans, increasing nuts and seeds, increasing whole fruits and vegetables are all great ways to increase your fiber. And it's really going to, over time, make a big difference. Look at this beautiful rainbow. All of these wonderful things are going to be increasing the fiber in your diet. And it's not just fiber, it's also having a good diet all around. So things like increasing fermented foods can be really helpful, things that have good bacteria in it. And things that feed good bacteria. Prebiotics feed the probiotics. So probiotics are the good bacteria that are in the gut and can be found in fermented foods like sauerkraut or kimchi, yogurts. But prebiotics feed those probiotics. So lucky for us, those are all the fibers that we were already talking about. So that is a perfect combination where you get both 2 for 1, right? You get to feed the good bacteria and you're getting in extra fiber. As well, a poor diet that's high in highly processed foods, fast foods, can be, very slowing to the digestive tract. You could consider decreasing meat and dairy while you're increasing all these other whole foods that we were talking about. As well, if you're trying to increase fiber, and you want to add in a supplemental fiber, we have one that we love called Smooth Passage because we add, not only does it have fiber in it, we add some herbs that are soothing and anti-inflammatory to the gut. They're called mucilaginous herbs that help slide things out and are very anti-inflammatory. Things like marshmallow root, slippery elm, licorice. Whenever you do take a supplemental fiber, you really want to make sure you drink enough water with the fiber, because if you just take a whole bunch of supplemental fiber and don't drink enough water, you could actually be creating a worse problem for yourself and really slowing things down. So you again want to work your way up to this. If you're not ready for, that much fiber all at once, it could create more of a logjam effect. And then lastly, besides being dehydrated as a reason for chronic constipation, besides a poor diet or lack of fiber in the diet, a lack of exercise. Movement helps move things around. So exercise is a really important piece as well to keep your digestive tract moving. We just don't move as much as we used to. And so that is definitely a key component for daily movement.
Absolutely. And I always recommend some walking, like at least 20 to 30 minutes of walking a day, but then doing some stretching, especially that is stretching and compressing the abdomen. So doing like cat-cow pose in yoga, or lying on your back and doing a knee to chest stretch and stretching one leg then the other back and forth a few times, and that will kind of stretch and compress the abdomen, which is particularly where we want there to be more movement.
Lots of twisting is helpful.
Absolutely. Also, ignoring the body's signals for having a bowel movement is a really common factor at play in chronic constipation. So, and this can be sort of a vicious cycle where there are things causing some constipation, things are slowing down. Because of that, you get out of the habit of sitting on the toilet every day. And because of that, your body, which is a creature of habit, really kind of loses this daily clock-like relationship to eliminating. So our bodies are absolutely creatures of habit. We are adapted to living according to daily or circadian patterns, such as waking around the same time each day, eating around the same time, pooping around the same time. And if we don't poop regularly, or a really common thing is people suppressing the urge to go to the bathroom, sometimes for years, often because of working in a profession that doesn't allow for breaks at the time that you would need to go to the bathroom, like driving a bus or being a school teacher, or any number of jobs like that, where years on end you get the urge. It's not at a time when you can take a break, and therefore you suppress it. So over time, those bodily functions can be suppressed, and it can really take some retraining to get them back online.
Well, you're perfectly in time with this question, which is, can you reset your gut?
Yes, absolutely. And there are a lot of different ways that question could be interpreted. And yes to all of them. But in this case, yeah, resetting those signals is absolutely possible. So it just takes some consistency. So we recommend taking time in the morning, maybe have a warm drink or water with a little lemon in it first thing, and then sitting on the toilet for a couple minutes or up to 10 minutes, say. It does not have to be, it shouldn't be a stressful thing. You don't even have to go to the bathroom during that time. Don't make it a situation where you are like trying so hard to go to the bathroom, and if nothing happens, you're disappointed or stressed about it. It's really just day after day saying, hey, body, this is the time that you have available every single day. This time will be available for you. You could go to the bathroom if you needed to. This is the time. And just retraining those signals, sort of allowing that time. And, it's okay to like read a book or do something. Don't do anything stressful. Don't like read the news, but you could read, flip through a catalog, something like that. During that time, it's helpful to put your feet up on a squatty potty, and that just kind of realigns the muscle slings in the pelvis to release pressure on the rectum. You can do some gentle belly massage. Let's see, I'm gonna see if I can kind of show you what I mean here. So I start in the right lower quadrant, right lower corner of your belly, and go up, over, and down to the left lower side, and do circles like that. So that is a helpful
looking
gesture.
Down, you're going clockwise. If you look down at your belly button, you're going in a clockwise motion.
Yeah, and that's the direction that the colon runs. So you can do that for a couple minutes if it feels good to do so. And then if you don't go, don't worry, you're just resetting that pattern and giving your body the opportunity. If you don't feel any signals at all to go to the bathroom, it can be helpful to add in some herbs that kind of help to re-stimulate motility. So there are two products that we tend to use for that. One of them is called Modal Restore. That one is a bit more targeted toward the small intestine or higher up in the intestines, but it can still help here. And then Daiju, which is one of our absolute favorite products, and a product that we make, we manufacture it because it's such a wonderful thing. That one really also helps and is a bit more focused directly on the colon to stimulate motility. So that's a great place to start. And then colonics, while they also just clear stool out, they can be used as sort of like exercise. It's sort of like going to the gym or having a workout for your colon. And so that can do some retraining. And, so you're introducing water, letting the colon move it back out, introducing water, letting the colon move it back out. So that actually can be quite helpful as well.
Another important area to address if someone has chronic constipation can be stress and how that plays into constipation. If you think about your nervous system, you can be in this sympathetic dominant fight or flight nervous system state. Everybody's sort of fight or flight. Well, the opposite of fight or flight is rest and digest. So if you're stuck in fight or flight, then your body isn't really interested in digesting. When you're in a stressed out state, your body's like, I'm going to allocate resources somewhere else because digestion isn't important. It's time for me to run. It's time for me to fight a bear. It's obviously not the time when you would want to be in the vulnerable position of going to the bathroom. So in a stress state, your body isn't going to produce the saliva, the stomach acid, the digestive enzymes, and the bile, and all these waves of motility to make everything break down and move. Your body's going to shut all that down and send blood to other areas of the body that are more important for you to survive whatever stress it thinks it's going through. So if someone is stressed out a lot of the time, especially chronically stressed, whether it be work or whatever it is, pandemics, then this can lead to poor digestion and constipation. So there are things that we can do. First of all, lifestyle de-stressing. I know that's easier said than done, but just knowing that there is a connection between the two can be motivating. So things like yoga, meditation, even exercise is really wonderful for stress. So anything in your lifestyle that you can do that is helpful for your stress will be a great thing to do to help your digestion as well. Then you can actually get body work, which is also really relaxing. Things like massage, you can even get abdominal massage, or things that are more focused on the nervous system, like craniosacral, which is really wonderful, very relaxing work that we have people specializing at the Tummy Temple. Another way to support the nervous system is through supplementation. So you can get digestive support if it's sort of secondary, right? If your nervous system is jacked up, you're stuck in that fight or flight, you're not making those digestive juices, then you can help replace those digestive juices by taking some kind of digestive support that has, some of them have digestive juices, including stomach acid, like hydrochloric acid, a full complement of digestive enzymes, things that break down proteins, carbohydrates, fats. There are vegetarian versions, there are versions that are not. So one of our favorites is Digeszyme V. If someone is vegetarian or having more trouble with plants or digesting plants, then there's Temple Total Digest, which has hydrochloric acid, bile, and enzymes, and that's really helpful for people who are having trouble more digesting proteins. You can also stimulate your own digestive juices by taking bitter herbs. So our Temple bitters, bitters have been used for thousands of years. You always see people, oh, your stomach hurts, have a little soda water and bitters. Bitters goes into your mouth and it stimulates your body to produce your own digestive juices. So it's a wonderful thing to take after overeating or during the holidays. I'm always like, you got to have bitters on the table for Thanksgiving. And one of the reasons I really like the Temple bitters is that not only does it have these bitter herbs that stimulate your digestive juices, it also contains man vine, which is a nervine. So it basically calms the nervous system and helps bring you out of that fight or flight and into the rest and digest, so your body can start to want to produce its own digestive juices again. Another supplement that could be helpful if things aren't moving is Temple Calm. It's magnesium citrate, and it can help pull water into the colon. So it's an osmotic laxative, works in a similar fashion to Miralax, which is also an osmotic laxative. But it also gives you magnesium, which is a calming mineral and helps with sleep, and doesn't have some of the yucky added things that are in Miralax.
So I'm going to pause here for a question. And we had one comment that someone is saying they had sort of a liver purge during a colonic that they found super helpful, very relieving. And then we have a question, how bad is using laxatives? It's the only thing that works sometimes. And yes, absolutely, that they can be a very wonderful and powerful tool. However, when they're overused, they deplete the body of electrolytes and kind of overstimulate the colon in a way where that can make it so it doesn't work so well with normal lower level stimulation, such as what would normally happen, like normal daily bodily signals. The electrolyte depletion is a really big deal. That's a very common thing with laxative dependence. So a lot of the stronger laxatives, they work by, sort of forcing the colon to squeeze. In doing that intense squeeze, the colon is using up electrolytes like magnesium and potassium. And then when we get depleted in magnesium and potassium, the colon can't squeeze anymore. It just literally doesn't have the electrolytes that would allow it to form that muscle contraction. And so then the same dose of laxative will not work as well. And oftentimes that results in people taking more laxative, higher doses and higher doses until it just really isn't working at all. And they're just kind of stuck. So I, frequently see people who have gotten to that point and help them walk that back by taking some electrolytes like the E-Lite. That's my favorite formula that Heidi was mentioning earlier. Adding that in can be incredibly helpful. And I still say you may need to use laxatives sometimes, but try not to use them more than once a week. Let's find some other things that are a little gentler, like the Temple Calm, the magnesium citrate, or the Daiju, kind of herbal stool softener, motility support. And let's kind of wean you down and use colonics to clear out the hardened backlog, and then go from there. So that's kind of a long answer that no, laxatives are not evil, but people get in a lot of trouble with overuse of them. And yes, bitters absolutely help with gas. They can help with beans. They can certainly help. Sometimes when beans are a big issue, taking digestive enzymes can be one of the best things. Like when you eat beans, take digestive enzymes with the beans.
Beans are tricky, there's songs about it, but definitely soaking your beans before you cook them is really, really helpful. Soaking them overnight, pouring that water out. As well, you can cook them with a little kombu, which is a seaweed that is helpful in deactivating some of the gas producing properties in the beans. And if you haven't eaten beans before and you're starting to eat beans, again, that's that slow ramp up to get your body used to it versus the now I eat nothing but beans kind of.
Yeah, start with no more than a quarter cup. And also if you're eating canned beans, rinse them every single time. Thoroughly rinse them until there's no more little bubbly stuff, because it's the kind of the compounds that create the bubbles. They're called saponins that cause the gas. So getting rid of as much of that as possible before you eat them is really helpful. Okay, moving on to another very important topic, low stomach acid. So I see this as a major factor in many cases of constipation. We develop so the stomach should be producing lots of very, very acidic acid. So a pH of 2 approximately, which is really acidic. That process kind of slows or starts to break down with high stress, because we just, as Heidi was saying, are allocating our resources elsewhere. Our body is just not focused on producing digestive juices. Nutrient deficiencies, we actually need certain nutrients to produce stomach acid at all. And so we can get deficient in those nutrients, and then we can't make very much stomach acid. And then we actually need stomach acid to absorb those nutrients to correct the nutrient deficiency. So it becomes a vicious cycle. Stomach inflammation can lead to lower output of stomach acid. And that's sort of a self-protective mechanism. If the stomach's inflamed, your body will make less stomach acid to not damage itself. And that's wisdom of your body. It's just that we need to correct the inflammation so that your stomach can tolerate holding stomach acid again. It's also just very common with age to have declining stomach acid. Having H. pylori in the stomach, which is a really common bacteria. Many people have it. It's not always a problem. It actually can have some benefits as well, but it does reduce stomach acid production. And in some people, it can be a problem and can cause things like stomach ulcers and even stomach cancer over time. And then there are so many medications that all work to reduce stomach acid production. The most common being proton pump inhibitors or H2 blockers or things like Tums, antacids, which, their entire point is to reduce stomach acid. And that's used as a treatment for heartburn, but without enough stomach acid, we just can't digest the protein in our food. And then it just sits. It just sits there and passes through very slowly. The bacteria ferment way more they sort of putrefy it instead of your body digesting it appropriately. That produces a ton of bloating and often constipation. So Temple Total Digest is one of the digestive formulas that Heidi was talking about that replaces some of that lost stomach acid to improve digestion. A couple cautions: you don't want to take this if you are currently on a proton pump inhibitor like omeprazole or an H2 blocker or, Prilosec. There's a whole bunch of them. I would recommend coming in to work with myself or one of our other doctors to look into coming off of that medication because they have really nasty long-term consequences. And oftentimes we can, get you off of it and then use something like Temple Total Digest, but don't combine the two. And then if you do try a supplement like this that has betaine hydrochloride, that's the term in a supplement for added stomach acid. If you try a supplement like this and it causes any pain or burning sensation in the kind of upper gut area, then stop taking it and meet with one of our NDs to figure out what's going on, because the stomach is designed to hold acid. So if it's not able to, if it's causing symptoms, there's something going on that needs to be figured out.
So I'm going to talk about food sensitivities next, but first there were a couple of questions I wanted to address. It says, what is the best supplement you recommend for anxiety caused by poor gut health? I mean, I would definitely say working on healing the gut is going to be the root choice for that. I mean, there are different supports that we have, a nerve tonic, we have a nice GABA support, but really that the poor gut health needs to be addressed, and the gut basically do a gut rebuilding protocol, which we work with all the time. And I believe we have a link to a class about that we will have coming up, a recording that we have, but really meeting with one of the naturopaths to work on gut rebuilding. And it depends also on, how that anxiety is expressing and how that's playing out in your life and what other things you might be taking. So I would say that's a little out of the scope. We'd have to get a little more information. And then someone said, what about Megacolon too? Which, I mean, I would say colonics would be very helpful for someone with Megacolon.
Yeah, yes, I would start with colonics. There can be a lot going on there, so that's kind of a complex topic and would be better addressed in a visit with one of our doctors. And yes, absolutely, I agree with Heidi about the anxiety caused by poor gut health. We really want to treat the cause and, treat the poor gut health in order to help people feel better. There are some probiotics that, probiotic supplementation at this point it's not just take a probiotic, it's what are you taking it for? And there is actually so much research out there on which strains of bacteria are best for which condition. So there are probiotics specifically helpful for diabetes. There are probiotics specifically helpful for bloating. And then there are probiotics that are specifically helpful for anxiety. That would be something where I don't have that information pulled up or memorized. But we, within a consult, we have a resource where we can look into those. We can pull up that data and figure out if there's a specific strain that might be right for you.
So for food sensitivities, this can also be a contributing factor to constipation. So I'm going to give a quick explanation about leaky gut and inflammation and how this works and how this can contribute. So if we have in our gut, we have a gut lining, and in that lining, there are these little gap junctions, and they're supposed to be really, really tight. And they're only supposed to allow through the gut into the bloodstream very small proteins, very small amino acids. Proteins are made up of many little amino acids in chains. And so these gap junctions are only supposed to let tiny little amino acids through into the bloodstream. But if these gap junctions get inflamed and open up, they become hyperpermeable or leaky. And then you can see here now large proteins from the foods you're eating can leak through these gap junctions into your bloodstream. And now there's this big protein in your bloodstream. And when your immune system sees this giant protein, it thinks to itself, oh my goodness, there's an invader coming and I better stop it. So then the immune system responds to this protein, creating an antibody and then a reaction, a sensitivity to this food. So basically, your body doesn't realize that this is just a little protein from a food, and it's not a bacteria coming to get you. So then it over responds to this food, and now it creates more inflammation, and so that continues to inflame the gut. So that inflammation in the gut can make it harder for you to have a bowel movement because everything's inflamed and it's just not working well. When your elbow's inflamed, you don't play tennis as well as you did. When your gut is inflamed, it does not move this food through as well as it normally should. So there are 3 basic things that you would do if you found that you had food sensitivities. Once you figure out what they are, which you can do through an elimination diet, or there's also testing, then you need to avoid those offending foods for a while. It's like if you had a big open sore on your arm. Every time you eat that food, it's like scratching that sore. So you want to stop scratching it, right? So you want to avoid those offending foods. Then you want to heal the lining of the gut. Often you're going to want to, like if you had a big sore on your arm, you might want to add a nice cream to that sore and a Band-Aid. So you can do that through supplementation of different things that can help rebuild that lining. Things like L-glutamine that help rebuild that gut lining. Different soothing anti-inflammatory herbs like slippery elm or marshmallow, different things like that. And we have an entire class called Effective Gut Healing Strategies. And Dr. Wood, I believe, just posted that. So that would be a very helpful resource. It's a recording for the person earlier who asked about having those symptoms from having a gut that needed healing. So yeah, food sensitivities could definitely be a piece for constipation.
Absolutely. As can imbalances in the bacteria or organisms living in our gut. So that in medicine is called dysbiosis. That can include just, overgrowth of types of bacteria in the colon that are not so health promoting. It can include overgrowth of candida, which is a type of yeast that I see causing constipation all the time. It can include SIBO, which is an acronym standing for small intestine bacterial overgrowth, which can also cause constipation or diarrhea or alternating constipation and diarrhea. So in a healthy state, we have this rich, diverse forest of bacterial species living in the gut, which provide countless benefits from supporting and contributing to immune system function, brain function, hormone balance, and much, much more. With overuse of antibiotics, however, with eating unhealthy diet, with high stress, with bouts of food poisoning, exposure to environmental chemicals, the balance can really be thrown off, allowing overgrowth of yeasts and or unhelpful or quote unquote dysbiotic bacteria. So this is an enormous topic. We're not going to be able to go into detail, but our ND team can assist you with testing and treatment. We can test for SIBO, we can do stool testing to get a really nice idea of what all is growing in the intestines, whether it be, how many of the good bacteria or approximately, is there overgrowth of bad types, et cetera. So that can be really helpful to dig deeper. But at the most basic level, there are some things that can help. So avoiding processed and packaged food, avoiding or reducing sugar and yeasted breads, eating more fiber, which is prebiotic. So prebiotic means something that feeds or encourages the growth of bacteria, of the healthy bacteria. And then eating a range of brightly colored fruits and vegetables. So those pigments that make all the different fruits and vegetables brightly colored are plant antioxidants. They're called polyphenols, and they kind of act like growth hormones for healthy bacteria. So they're not exactly food for them, but they protect them from stress and encourage their growth. Drinking organic green tea selectively fertilizes healthy bacteria while not feeding and actually discouraging the growth of unhealthy bacteria. And then you can check out our online class, Effective Ways to Manage Yeast Overgrowth, if that is an area that you want to learn more about. And then come in for some more detailed testing and investigation if needed.
As well, we're going to go through some of the side effects of pharmaceuticals, supplements, or recreational drugs that basically those side effects can be constipation, slowing down of the digestive tract. So a lot of times people aren't thinking about it being a side effect from something that they're taking. So very commonly, iron can be very constipating, iron supplementation. Calcium is another supplement that can be really constipating. Things like antihistamines, they really dry things up, right? That can also slow the digestion down. Antacids, as Dr. Wood was talking about earlier, the whole point is to stop the acid in your stomach, so then things just don't want to break down, they don't want to move. Even some antidepressants can change your digestion. Opioid pain medication, right? It kind of stops pain, but it also kind of puts the colon to sleep. Diuretics that help remove water, but that can dry things out. And then that can be something that you are having a constipation as a side effect. And then for high blood pressure, things like calcium channel blockers. And there's more. There's lots of different over-the-counter medications, supplements, recreational drugs that can create constipation. So looking into that, there are solutions. Sometimes the solution is to try to get off of this medication, like for example, acid blockers, great to go see one of the naturopaths and try to work off of that if you can. But sometimes you can't. Sometimes these things are not, you're not going to be going off of them. So colonics are a really, really helpful adjunct, a helpful way. Some people use colonics in a maintenance way where they're like, okay, I'm going to come in once a month and clear things out because I know that's just part of what I have to do for self-care because of the side effect of this medication that is saving my life right now, you know, so it just really depends. There's also
Yeah,
supplementation. Go ahead.
some of these medications can be so helpful or even life-saving, or just, you know, at the time being so necessary. So we're not saying stop all your medications.
Oh.
We're just saying sometimes we have to manage the situation while that's the case.
For sure. So, oh, and someone just asked, can you share some of the products you have mentioned so we can purchase? Yeah, Dr. Wood can put a link to, we have a collection on our website of all the things that we mentioned in this class. And so Dr. Wood will put a link in the chat.
I did already share it, but I will share it. I shared it
Okay.
kind of right at the beginning, but I'm going to share it again.
Some of the supplements that would be really helpful are the Daiju, which is short for digestive juices. It's those bitter Chinese herbs that help stimulate digestive juices and help move the colon. And Temple Calm is another common one. It's the magnesium citrate. That's that osmotic and helps pull water into the system. So those are two really great solutions, colonics and some of those supplements for side effects from other things that you're taking. As well, structural issues are often overlooked. So structural issues like abdominal muscular tension. Some people hold their tension in their neck. Other people hold it in their abdomen, just, you know, really tight. Surgical scarring. I mean, scars can really, there can be scarring from a surgery, say an appendectomy, right? But that scar tissue can grow and attach to the colon right there and can pull things. There can also be twists or kinks in the colon or spasms in the muscle, just like you can get a spasm in a shoulder, you can get a spasm in the muscle that is the colon. There's constrictions. So if you're holding stress or trauma in the abdomen in one of these ways, that can definitely impact your digestion. So this is when abdominal massage can be so helpful. When Dr. Wood showed you that self-abdominal massage, you can also come in and get abdominal massage, visceral manipulation, or Chinatsong abdominal massage from different people at the Tummy Temple that specialize in that can really help get in there and open that up, relax things, help work on some of that scar tissue. Colonics, again, can be really helpful, that bringing in of that water and stretching those areas out, especially with a little lymphatic therapy add-on. The lymphatic can help decrease inflammation and just help open all of that up. And we have NDs that do specific scar therapy work. There's both little injections that you can do in scars, around scars. There's also, we have a massage therapist that does a specific scar therapy work that doesn't involve injections, but just helping release that scar tissue area and break those things down. As well, again, supplements can help with this structural piece. So castor oil packs are amazing. The castor oil, put it on the abdomen, put on the area of issue, and it helps bring circulation to that area and open it up and allows things to drain. Then you put heat on it. It's really relaxing, really wonderful. We even have a castor oil mixed with CBD for extra pain relief and anti-inflammatory. So that's wonderful. And then again, the magnesium citrate, the Temple Calm, can be really helpful. It's got that relaxing magnesium mineral in there and just helping open things up. And then the fiber, smooth passage fiber, can actually be helpful if there's like strictures. It can help kind of stretch out and give that colon something to work against. So definitely considering if there is a piece that is structural involved.
Okay, I just was making sure I had that product link correct. I think we've got it now. Okay, so there are other factors that can contribute. So we've covered all the more common things. And if you've tried or if you've already tried addressing these factors that we've covered today and they haven't worked, then that's a time that it's just time to see one of our doctors for a more tailored care and deeper investigation. Daiju, the herbal stool softener, and colonics are very often helpful, you know, along the way. But some of the other conditions that can be playing a role are endocrine or metabolic problems such as diabetes or hypothyroidism, which is low thyroid function, neurological problems including concussion, head injury, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, spinal cord injury, and stroke. A fairly common one that I see is pelvic floor dysfunction. So that can be worth looking into. And then liver and gallbladder congestion. So bile is this substance, emulsifier substance that's produced by the liver, stored up in the gallbladder, which acts as a little kind of time-release squeezy bulb. And so that bile gets released into the digestive tract when we eat food that has fat in it to help break up and digest the fat. And it also acts as a motility agent, so it helps the colon move. So that can be a factor. Constipation can be an aspect in inflammatory bowel disease, such as Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis. And then, as I touched on before, laxative dependence can be a major factor and can require some kind of fine tuning to undo the dependence. So just to touch on some of the other more complex situations that might be going on. And I think there just was a comment or a message saying they had tried almost everything we mentioned. And yep, this is one of those cases where more investigation and investigating some of those not as common situations would be called for. I also see a question, are the herbs in Dijuice safe during pregnancy? They are not. So that is not one to take during pregnancy. And then, can fatty liver be an issue as well? Yes, fatty liver can be one of the manifestations that can tell us that there's some sluggishness in the liver that could be affecting that bile flow. So yes, absolutely, that could be playing a role.
So we've talked about a lot of different things, and we just want to give you an idea of what to expect when you're addressing a long-term or chronic constipation situation. It's not one of those things that's going to turn on a dime usually, you know, especially if you're like, wow, I've been dealing with this for months or years, as many people come to us at the Tummy Temple telling us. So expecting ups and downs would be really, really normal with a progression in the right direction. So like, oh, it's getting better. Wait, oh, but wait, there we go. Up, down, up, down. But in general, it's going up, right? But it's not just going to go straight up. A common thing that we see is that for every year you've had an issue, you're going to expect at least a month of working on it. So if for 10 years this has been an issue, then 10 months. But hey, I mean, that's less than a year, and it's going to change your life to go to the bathroom regularly every day. And during that time, you'll see the progression. You'll see it getting better. So it's not just like 10 months of waiting with no change. You should be seeing change. Also, I would expect better results with a multifaceted approach. So if you just change your diet, that's going to really be helpful. But if you change your diet and you get some body work, that's probably going to be more helpful. And if you change your diet and get some body work and try some supplementation and do some lifestyle changes for stress, that's going to be even more helpful. So when you have this multifaceted approach, it all works together, because usually, as we said before, chronic constipation is not usually a single origin issue. It's usually has a multifaceted reason behind it. And expecting trial and error, you know, finding out what works for you. It's a little bit of experimentation. And that's why often when it's a really complicated situation, working with one of our doctors is going to be really, really helpful, so that they can be following along with your progress and saying, oh, it's like this. Now we're gonna tweak this. We're gonna tweak that diet piece. We're gonna tweak that supplement piece, so that you can keep moving forward at you know, and making gains. So as well, you're going to want to consider that you might need maintenance work, that like you're going to get through it, things are going to be moving better, but that at some point you might want to have a maintenance schedule in place. Like, okay, now I do a quarterly colonic, and now I take these digestive support enzymes, especially if I have a really big meal with lots of meat, you know? And so understanding that if this has been a chronic issue for a long time, there might be some maintenance work done once you are finished with the sort of bigger protocol.
And wanted to touch on as a closing note, this is so doable. We have really seen people with lifelong constipation be able to transform. Sometimes you figure it out on the first try, but often it needs some course correcting and some troubleshooting, and that's why we're here. I would say maybe 30% of the time we figure it out pretty quickly and it's a simple situation, and then 70% of the time we're still moving in the right direction, as Heidi had said, but there's a bit of complexity. There are some things to figure out along the way.
And then I do see a question. Can you say again the body work that you recommend? Well, definitely colon hydrotherapy, abdominal massage, and other massage. Abdominal massage is great, especially for structural issues, but regular massage and craniosacral are also amazing for just bringing down that nervous system, which can really be a part of that. And as well, the electrolymphatic therapy can be really anti-inflammatory and helpful. I would say colon hydrotherapy would probably be number one.
Did you mention Chine Song before?
I called it abdominal massage.
Oh, got it. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, and we mostly always do abdominal massage during colon hydrotherapy treatments as well, and we are all many of us are trained highly in abdominal massage, so it's sort of a combination, and that's of course up to you. But if the person is okay with it, that can be very helpful.
And if you want to stay in touch with us or receive updates on new classes or tips or recipes and deals, you can sign up for our newsletter. And we do have a coupon code for you, which is Poop Talks 20, and that gives you 20% off of the online store collection that Dr. Wood shared earlier. And if you book a session at the Tummy Temple in the next week, you just need to book it in the next week. It can be for later out. You can receive $20 off any session, and just when you're making the appointment, just tell them, oh, we were at the class and Poop Talks 20, it gets me my $20 off.
All right, and as always, we just want to say thank you for showing up, for attending our class, for asking great questions. We love to have you here and to get to share. And as always, thank you so much to Marlene's Market for hosting these classes. What a gift to the community, really. We appreciate it so much.
And we appreciate you and all you do and everyone here attending. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks. And Dr. Wood, are you sending out an email to the group too with some of this?
Yes. So I will send out an email probably by tomorrow afternoon, just reiterating these links. So you'll have them all in one place, and a few resources. So you can keep an eye out for that as well.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Have a good one.